Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm recording this actually fairly late at night. Whatever. We're not going to get on to the when am I recording this episode time frame train of thought here. I should introduce you. I should actually have this series start the way it probably should. Here I am in Sacramento, California, North California, the capital of the great state of California, a state I've been in one time. Maybe two times. I don't remember the first time. So, for intents and purposes, I've been to California once. And damn is it fine. It wasn't even in Sacramento. I don't know anything about Sacramento. Regardless, here we are in Sacramento, home of the Kings. I believe this is what's currently known as... Oh, Doug Christie already with the reach in. What I believe right now is currently known as the Sleep Train Arena. It might be a different arena entirely. I don't know. All I know is that this is the Sacramento Kings home court, making it the away court for the Dallas Mavericks. And man, they are taking it to us early here in the second round of the playoffs. Game 1 of the Western Conference semis here. So as it turns out, I got a pretty easy sweep over the Wolves of Minnesota. Kevin Garnett and Wally Szczerbiak and all those guys. This is definitely going to be a harder series because this is one of the 2002-2003 team was disappointing. The 2002-2003 Kings, should I say, were a disappointing team. They didn't capitalize on the sort of momentum they had in 2002. A lot of their best players were getting older, specifically Vlade Divac, which, that's what happens. He was a great veteran for that team, though, if I may just add in something randomly. Oh, that's not really randomly, but regardless, this team, especially the 2002 team, specifically the 2002 team, finished first in the West in the regular season. I was traveling, damn it. Finished first in the West in the regular season. They made it to the Western Conference Finals, fell to the, I believe, third place Los Angeles Lakers in a very controversial series, if anybody remembers that. For years, I remember, specifically Game 6 in Los Angeles was a game that I think well, that was a weird move Nash did there, but a lot of people remember that game as being something. I remember Michael Wilbon talking was it a documentary a couple of years after that or something, just saying, like, that game felt, let's say, fishy. And that game, like, looking back, one of the things that would definitely endear it to being kind of fishy was the fact that the NBA would often only really exercise its content, like copyright claims, on that game, on clips of that game, and take down YouTube videos on that game, and then also, just to add to the conspiracy theorist opinion of the National Basketball Association, that is still very prevalent. The 1980 the Patrick Ewing New York Knicks NBA draft lottery. I believe the first NBA draft lottery. And if you put up a video of either of those pieces of NBA lore or whatever, pieces of NBA history, it was going to get taken down from YouTube. Those are anyway, my point is those happen to be the two most disputed incidents in NBA history. And then later there was the whole scandal with refs fixing games, all that. Finley, not going to make that. We are in a kind of deep hole here. Damn. It's just hard to... If they get the ball up ahead of you, there's really not much you can do to stop them, which is how the game typically actually goes. But, if you remember that game, there were instances where there were weird fouls called, maybe not the most legit fouls called. I believe in the Tim Donaghy court case, it did come up that there was something up with that game. So I feel like that was one of the few cases where, the internet is always going to breed the kind of conspiracy theorists that makes up 80% of the internet. And that's one of the rare times when they're actually confirmed. Of course, then so many of these other conspiracies are that the Lakers are always in the playoffs because they can only get the best players. and stuff like that. It's like, well, you know, not always. I mean, we've seen non-LA teams win in the playoffs before. It's like, but yeah, but you know, the Sacramento Kings thing happened. You know, rigging draft lotteries or LeBron going to Cleveland. I remember there was a conspiracy. Oh, God, we are just getting our asses kicked into the dirt here. Multiple goaltending calls? Come on. Somebody's got to step up, and that somebody's going to be Steve Nash. No, that somebody is going to be Eduardo Najera in the corner. That somebody's not going to be Eduardo Najera in the corner. Apparently that's going to be Doug Christie faking out Mike Finley underneath the net. Jesus. This is not going well for the Dallas Mavericks. I figured we'd have to lose sometime. Oh, we are just not making shots here. And, okay, Stojacic. Oh. Well, that... Oh, my God. I didn't know free throws were going to be this hard. Anyway. What was I talking about? Conspiracies? As typical. But yeah, the NBA is no stranger to controversy. Also, the Kings are just a weird team in general. There was a stretch of, you know, about 2001 to 2004 or so, maybe 2000 to 2004 when they were an 8th seed, I think 2000, that the Kings were just a good team. They were just one of the better teams in the league. Chris Webber and... What? Unfair. I faked him out. I was driving past him. That's what Dirk does. Take the one-legged fade. Anyway, regardless, the Kings were one of the best teams in the league for about 4 years. And the 0-2 version of the Kings was one of the best teams, I would say, of all time. Just on the whole, they had a great talent, top to bottom, really, outside of Doug Christie maybe starting. But even he was a good starting shooting guard for the time. Of that decade, they were certainly one of the top 10 teams, I would say. Even though they didn't win a title... And, you know, Chris Webber obviously never won a title before he retired. He retired a member of the 76ers, if I remember correctly. But those teams were just some of the... Oh, shit. Bibby. Getting the steal. Christie getting the 3. Oh, okay, well, he'll miss that. Make the layup. There we go. We've had trouble making layups today. Really, we've had trouble getting shots off, though, has actually been the problem. Too many turnovers. Damn. Okay. Those early aughts Kings, though, were the best... not the best teams in NBA history, but they were among the best teams in the league of that time. Certainly the best teams of that decade. And then if you look back in the 90s and the 80s... especially after the move away from Kansas City, even though they were never really good in Kansas City either. It was starting even just in the move, really after the move from Rochester. But once they got to Sacramento, there was about a period of just not good, then 4 years of good, you know, from about 1980, whenever that was, 1982 to 1999 or so, they were terrible. Then about 2003 to whenever that was, basically 2003 to now, they've been just bad. They've had maybe 4 years of really sustained success in their entire history in Northern California, which is crazy to think about. Damn it. Fouls keep coming. Crazy to think about how a team, just a franchise in general, can have such a limited amount of success over such a long period of time. I mean, this has been one of the most across-the-board terrible teams in history. They never really had a mediocre period. I can't think of how many times they even, were an 8th seed or a low seed in the Western Conference. Not even that. It was either they were at the top of the world. Okay, well, there was 1 year when they were an 8th seed, but I'm talking about the entire time. They were the 2000 to 2004 or so. They were one of the best teams, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, well, not really out of nowhere, but, now they're bad. And they're bad again. They have a good player in DeMarcus Cousins. They have what I believe to be a rising player in Ben McLemore. And George Karl at coach. And nobody likes George Karl at coach, apparently. For some reason, I don't know what the big issue with George Karl is. I think it's that he just doesn't coach stars well. Oh, shit, we're down by 27. This is ridiculous. We gotta get something going here. Get blocked in the corner. This is just, painful. If I were, like, living in Dallas during this time, I would have already turned the game off. I mean, there's no chance, really, of me coming back and winning this. Unless you want to hear my hot... So, it's basically going to be my hot commentary for the rest of this. It's going to keep you engaged. Unless I can get the famous 25-point comeback in Game 1 that happens so often. I guess that's what happens. You know, you sweep a team, and then you just go and shit the bed against the next one. That's what happened, basically. Kind of like the Kansas City Royals in the 2014 World Series. They didn't really shit the bed against the Giants, though. They just lost. They went to 7 games. Regardless, the Kings during this era were one of the best. Now they're one of the worst. I don't see how they are going to get out of it. I don't understand the moves they're making. Like, Rajon Rondo was a weird choice. Because he's good. You know, he's been good historically. He was one of the better point guards like a number of seasons ago. But it's not like he ever was... That was a mistake. It's not like he was... Oh, that was an air ball. Shit. I haven't seen an air ball on NBA Live 2003 in a long time. Christie stepping back and taking the 3. Up by 26. Okay, whatever. So we got a long road ahead of us if we want to beat the Kings. Anyway, these current Kings teams, I don't know where they are going, how they're going to get better. If looking at their decisions, and just the front office and on the court, you know, well, I mean, on the court it's not going to translate into wins if they keep going with what they're going with. Is my point. DeMarcus Cousins is good, and he was a really good draft pick for them. For whatever reason, every draft pick since then has just been very questionable. Maybe outside of McLemore because he's stuck in there for more than like 2 seasons, but I think Stauskas might be gone. Like, he might not be playing for them anymore, even though he wasn't the guy they should have drafted. They didn't need a shooting guard. They drafted a shooting guard the year before. Who the hell could they possibly need? Well, a point guard maybe, and there was like 2 or 3 point guards in that draft. That was just weird. I'm talking about like last year's NBA draft. I don't even know who they drafted this year. The Kings are just not going to be a good team in the near future, unfortunately. Unless they start making some moves soon, and unless DeMarcus Cousins ends up being one of the best, like having not just a good season, but I mean like a transcendent season. I can't even think of an example of a player who had a transcendent, maybe like Kobe in 2006, where he took a bad team and got them to the playoffs just by the essence of being who he is. I can't even... Kobe in 2006 is probably the best example of a player like that. And then he didn't win the MVP purely based on the fact that he's Kobe. It's like, no, I don't want to give the MVP to Kobe. We were happy to see him fail, I think. Who was that? Oh, Hedo Turkoglu. Making an appearance. He's still in the league. He's still playing. He was playing big time minutes for the Clippers last year, if I remember correctly. Yeah. God, he wore like a t-shirt underneath his jersey. They're putting in the B team against me. I'm just trying to pad the stats, trying to make this fewer than a 20-point loss. Yeah, it wasn't until they actually took their foot off the gas pedal that I started scoring points here. We've cut the lead in half. Yeah. Okay, well, this was an embarrassment of epic proportions. This was watching this was like a 16 seed versus a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. No chance the whole time. This was like everybody versus Kentucky until people figure out how to beat Kentucky in that last year's NCAA tournament. This was like that game where the Clippers played the Sixers last year, and the Sixers were so bad that it was just like the Clippers were just doing like dunk contest style dunks. Like Chris Paul was doing it off the backboard to Blake Griffin, who was like doing a windmill. That was badass. But anyway, my point is, this is that type of game. This is everybody in the Big 12 against Kansas. And that hits home. It hurts to say that. It's the type of thing I hate saying. I don't know why I'm just taking the random three. The French with the rebound. Showing it up. Maybe this will be the time where I put Gigi Wong in after the last point. Scott Pollard in. Oh, God, we got two... I only know it's Scott Pollard by the bleach blonde hair. The frosted tips, effectively, of Scott Pollard. One of the legends of the game. Truly a great Scott Pollard. Where would we be in the history of the basketball without Scott Pollard? And I'm like being facetious here, but I'm also totally serious. I love Scott Pollard as a player and as a personality. He's one of my favorites. The famous time he leaned into the microphone on NBA on TNT when he was like injured with the Cavs, and he was just like, "Hey kids, do drugs." Legendary. Best player in KU history, easily. The Kings bench was really surprised to see him pull out that victory by however many points. Player of the game was Mike Bibby with his astounding 4 points. And that's the end of that. I'm going to go curl up in a ball and cry in the corner. I didn't know the Sonics were still in the playoffs. I guess they beat whoever that was. So we're down 1-0 against Sacramento. We can only hope next week that we show up and play a good game. If we don't, then that's not good. So I'll see you tomorrow in Madden 03 with the Chiefs. And thank you for watching. I'll try to do